Welcome back to the Wolff Den, presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we got Matt Graifer on the show, the young professor. Sorry for the delay. I had some technical difficulties. I just wanted to match Matt with my headphones. My first episode with headphones. I don't know what happened, but we're here and we're ready to go.
Well, you look official with those headphones.
And welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Wolff Den. Great to have you. For the people who don't know who you are, give a quick intro and then let's get to it.
So I am the young professor, Matt Graifer, probably best known as the host, the on-field host for the Savannah Bananas. I'm working alongside Jesse Cole there, and we are 2 days away from heading down to your neck of the woods, Matt, and kicking off this world tour down in South Florida. So pumped up, man. It's going to be a good time.
I will be there. You and I met in West Palm, the last Banana Ball tour, and it's a great day of baseball. It's a great entertainment. It's great fun. It's fun for all ages, I think. I think.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you just got back from the Super Bowl, so I mean, that's the Super Bowl, but you get to your fair share of events. How would you describe Banana Ball as it stacks up entertainment wise with everything else that you get a chance to go and do and be a part of?
Yeah, when I first saw the Banana Ball, I said it's like the Harlem Globetrotters of minor league baseball. It's entertaining. I think, what Jesse's doing, I think is great, right? I think there's room for and an appetite for baseball, people who love baseball, but people who love to be entertained and people who don't necessarily care about who wins or loses or what's going on there. Now, I do think, and we'll see what happens this year, that it'll have to evolve. I don't think it could just be, hey, we're playing the party animals all the time, because I think people might get tired of that. I don't know. The Generals and the Globetrotters and the Wizards, they didn't. They played the same thing. I personally, it wouldn't be for me all the time. I know they're sprinkling in some games, against the Monarchs. I didn't look at the schedule, but the Monarchs and all of that. So I think it's great what he's doing. How did you get involved with Jesse and the Bananas?
Oh, dude, I begged and pleaded and wanted to be a part of it so bad. I've been a professional host for over 7 years now, but I only started in sports about 5 years ago, 5 years last month in January. I started as a professional wrestling ring announcer, and from there started working in arena football and then just tons and tons of events all over the place. Wound up getting a spot with the Daytona Tortugas as their on-field host. And just and as I was actually learning, the ropes on what I wanted to do there, that's when I found out about the Bananas. And I got a chance to get turned on to them and saw what they were about. I thought they were just another goofy name team, because that's a big thing in minor league baseball these days, which I'm a huge fan of, by the way. I'm not knocking that by any means. I've got Modesto Nuts hats and Rocket City Trash Pandas, and
Trash Pandas, love them.
I don't have a Carolina Disco Turkeys hat yet, but I want one. Like I like all the goofiness, so I thought the Bananas were just another goofy name team, and then I found out that they were a whole lot more than that. And the experience was something that was not like anything else going on in baseball. And as someone that was on the entertainment side, even in affiliated minor league baseball, I initially just had an interest to learn more because I recognized very quickly that they were easily the best at this sort of thing, at the stuff that I'm doing. And Jesse was wearing the yellow tux, and I was already a guy wearing crazy suits all the time. So I was like, well, clearly there's synergy here. So I read his book and reached out to him and managed to make a connection with him and speak to him. I got a chance in 2021 to come out to a game with my family, and Jesse actually had me perform with the team, do some of the introductions of the players, the starting lineup, and then a few batter walk-ups early in the game. And then as we got to the Banana Ball World Tour, I reached out. That was really only going to be a one-off thing. They weren't looking for me. They had another host at the time. Jesse is one of the hosts too. And I so badly wanted to be a part of it. And I sent Jesse a Christmas ornament, like a flat felt banana Christmas ornament, and a QR code. And I shot this ridiculous video with a green screen and me in a different outfit every time in each of the stadiums they're going to, and talking about, just, I think I wrote a poem. I had a guy playing I had a violin with me, just very crazy stuff, because I know that that's what they're about.
It
And
fits. It fits their narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. If I just sent an email like, hey, I want to be on the team, like that would not have cut it. And I knew that just because I had been paying very close attention and immersing myself in their culture from afar. And I didn't even necessarily want a hosting position. I didn't want to upend anybody or rock the boat. I just wanted to learn from the people I thought were doing it the best. And I said, I told Jesse, I said, dude, I'll sell popcorn for you. I don't care what you have me do. And he came back to me and he says, well, I'm not going to have you sell popcorn. I think you're more capable than that. So he gave me some homework to come up with some ideas to pitch for being a part of the team. And to make this already long story a little shorter, we went back and forth on the pitch and the ideas, and they invited me to part of it last year. And I think I knocked it out of the park, no pun intended. And we're back this year, and we're getting ready to go.
Imagine how much fun if you watch this, right? To be a part of it, and that's your job or whatever you want to call it. It's got to be a feeling like nothing else. And a lot of the stuff that you do is, by the way, we haven't even mentioned the fact that why they call you the young professor. You're actually a professor. You teach, and you can have some fun when you teach, I'm sure, but you can't have the type of fun that you can with a role like what you do for the Tortugas, for the Bananas, and all the other jobs that you've had.
You're right. I mean, when it comes to fun, there is nothing quite like it. And you're right. You can watch it on television, right? Like, you can watch the Bananas on TikTok. You can watch all their great content. And it is great. And it is wildly entertaining. But to be there is a whole other thing. And then to be in it is a whole other thing on top of that, I think. Monday night, we're filming this project that's going to drop, I think on Friday is when they're going to do it. They're producing this very elaborate production. We had to go on Friday to learn a choreographed dance. So I took a half day from work. I live 200 miles south of Savannah. I drove up, practiced this dance with all these other grown men and older women in the Banana Nanas and then little girls on the Banana Splits team. And then Monday night after work, I drove all the way up to Savannah again, 200 miles one way, got in full costume, and we're standing out on a baseball diamond, and we're all a bunch of grown people doing this elaborate dance for this thing that we're doing. And we looked at each other, myself and Vincent, the dancing umpire, and we went, this is amazing. I mean, this is work right now, but this isn't work. We're so lucky to have this chance to do this. And what's cool is what you said. That's how all of us feel. No one takes it for granted. Everybody is just enamored to be there and be a part of this. And the culture is contagious. Everybody is on the same page. So it's just an unreal experience.
You know what? It's interesting, the future of Banana. We don't want to go too far ahead because this is only the second tour that they've had. The future of Banana Ball, in my mind, I don't think people are going to want to watch this on TV. And you know what? Everyone wants something that's made for TV because that's where the money is. I think that's okay. I think having the scarcity of a Banana Ball coming to your city, maybe they can expand it, and not having this need to be on TV is good because it's really an in-person. I was at the Field of Dreams game, and you know what? It left me feeling I didn't have a great feeling about it because it was a made-for-TV event, even though I'm here in this unbelievable atmosphere, right? A once-in-a-lifetime type of thing, and everything they were doing was all for TV. Whereas everything that the Bananas do is, hey, does it entertain you from the second you walk onto the premise, out of your car, until after you're back with the post-game stuff. I think they're doing a great job. I think, look, it's gimmicky a little bit, right? And gimmicky works. So they have to find a way to make it stay gimmicky but not cheesy in the way you talk to. And they'll figure it out. I have no doubt that they'll figure it out as they go along. It's still in the infancy stages. But, yeah, I wear my hat. I wore my hat all over Super Bowl because I knew it would get attention, and it did. And,
I bet tons of people talk to you, which is crazy to think at a Super Bowl at the, you can't even have an analogy. The Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It's not the Super Bowl of anything. It's the damn Super Bowl. And people are talking to you about your Savannah Bananas hat. I mean, it's wild when you think about it.
Yeah, it connects. Like, yo, do you know who they are? Have you seen them play? It's a great conversation starter. Love my hat. It's my favorite hat, aside from my ticket time machine hat, of course. Your voice is what it is.
That's what they say. Yeah.
When did you know that this might be an advantage? Because if you're growing up and you kind of have this, different voice, it might not be so great. But when did you know, hey, I might have something here?
Well, I'll tell you when I should have known, and then I'll tell you when I knew. When I should have known was when I was in high school, and the signs were all there. And I think, like most people, I think a lot of us are just kind of blindly going through life and chasing the things that people tell you to chase. And we don't pay attention to what's immediately right in front of us. And I think it's a mistake. And, I can certainly write a cautionary tale about that. But when I was in high school and my voice finally started to sound like this, I didn't realize that others had recognized it. I was in a Marine Corps JROTC program when I was in high school. So I didn't play sports. I did that instead. And I was very quickly picked out from my senior instructors to be on the drill team and then put in charge of the drill team, mainly as a commander, because they thought I sounded so good. And I wound up my senior year. I'm from New Jersey. So I grew up in a place called Rahway, New Jersey. And we would compete.
Too.
Are you? Everybody in Florida is from Jersey. But we came down to Daytona Beach every year to compete in our national championships. And I was ranked second in the country. And I think I missed first by like 8 points from some mistake we made. So that was when I should have known. And our morning announcements, I was in the broadcasting class, and for years, they used my voice as the opening line of the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, they didn't change it even after I graduated.
That's awesome.
So, the stuff was there, and I went to college. I did nothing with it. And then I started teaching spin classes when I was in my master's degree, and started giving all kinds of wacky presentations while I was getting my graduate degree. And when I moved here and started teaching, and then I started hosting trivia, that's when people all the time, I mean, every week, people would come up to me after I was done hosting trivia shows, and they would go, "Do you work in sports, or do you work with the baseball?" Like, already, like the Tortugas, or they were the Cubs at the time. "Do you work for them? Like, you must, right?" And I was like, no. And finally I said, "Well, I probably should do something about this. If this many people are telling you something about yourself, that's something worth probably exploring and seeing what else you can do with it." And so that's exactly what I did.
Did the voice help with the ladies?
No, White not at all. Not even in the slightest. Not when I was younger, anyway.
All right, so you graduate and you become. What's the story of how you became a professor? Is it just that's what I wanted to do? And
no, God, no. I had no idea I would be a teacher. That was never the plan. I don't really know what the plan was. I don't know that I had one per se. I used to work in campus recreation, so I was in sports and fitness because I just had so much fun there, and that's where my career took me. My undergraduate degree is in psychology. My master's degree is in kinesiology because I wanted something related to recreation and exercise science. But it's 11 years ago this month, I was still working in college admissions at the time, which was horrible. I hated that job so much. It was not good. It was a sales job.
Now. It's worse now.
I believe
it's so hard to get into these schools.
Well, it was a not-for-profit school, but it was very proprietary. You know what I mean? It was, get these students in, you have to make 100-something phone calls a day. It wasn't like a traditional college thing where kids, apply and you look at their scores. Like, we were aggressively pursuing students to try and get them there. Right. Most of our students were primarily adults. So it was a very different oriented educational process. And I applied. I was a single dad at the time, and I really wanted to be closer where my son was because I live in Palm Coast, Florida, and that's where he was with his mom. And I was in an apartment that I was getting ready to give up in Jacksonville, and I wanted to be closer to Daytona Beach. So there was a campus related to the school in Daytona. I applied to do admissions there. They saw my degree in kinesiology, a master's degree, and they said, "We actually have this sports medicine program, and we need an instructor. Is that something you'd be interested in?" I said, "Hell yeah, I'd be interested in that because what I'm doing now is awful and I hate it. So I like talking. So that's good for me." And I went and I saw, I think this morning, my Facebook memory from 11 years ago, I think I did my teaching instruction today 11 years ago, and they gave it to me and I started, and I'm still 25 years old the day I started. So I was a 25-year-old college professor, and
what are you
most of my
teaching?
students were older. I was teaching sports medicine and fitness technology. The first class I ever had to teach was advanced care and prevention of athletic injuries, and I had never even taken an anatomy and physiology class. So it was a lot of learning for me on the fly to get ahead of my students, and I did it for about 7.5 years.
Well, I'm a part of the Win Again Academy, Mark Moyer, and he's they're a good supporter of the program, and the type of advances in that field, incredible. But what are you teaching now?
So now I'm a high school teacher, which I actually like better. The grind with the college was tough. Plus, I bounced around campuses a little bit. I was back commuting to Jacksonville for about 4 years, and that commute turned from an hour to like an hour and a half each way every day. It was just beating me up. And so now I teach high school, and I actually teach world history and psychology because they like my undergrad degree in psychology. They don't like my master's degree. I can't even teach gym class in Florida because I don't have the coursework for public education, which is weird because I've literally taught every single course to give someone a bachelor's degree in that, but I can't teach, high school gym. But my social studies background with psychology enables me to teach social studies. So I teach world history and psychology.
Just make sure you don't teach critical race theory or whatever.
Dude, listen, I read the book. Like, history is stories, man. It's what happened. I have no agenda. I love how the politics get into that these teachers are indoctrinated. I'm like, brother, I just want these kids to pay attention. That's all I want. Like, we're all just.
Is it harder as a Florida teacher now? I mean, I'm the full disclosure, I'm no fan of DeSantis. But is it, as a teacher, is it hard? What's the problem?
It's weird. And, gosh, my particular county that I work in, we were in the news for all the wrong reasons last year. So of course you got a lot of like weird eyebrows coming our way for this. I don't look at it that way because I show up and I'm me, right? Like I'm standing here. I'm in my classroom right now, right? This is where I am. So I show up like this every day, and I'm here to entertain and engage these students and get them to learn some of this stuff. And that's really all I'm trying to do is do my job, make these kids well-rounded and educated and have a fighting chance to do something out in the world when they're done. And that's it. And that's all. But, I would say not even so much the politics of it. I really try not to mix myself up in any of that because I think most of it's nonsense. But really what makes it difficult is not anything Florida specific. I think it's just competing with students for their attention because they've never been more distracted. And especially with COVID, we forced them all into their homes, onto their devices, and we're not shaking them off. It doesn't matter how crazy I dress or how loud or good I am.
There's no going back.
Yeah, I can't compete with TikTok. I can't compete with what's entertaining in their hand. And it's really hard to police and get it all together. So I'd say that's the most difficult part of it. And that's independent of politics at all.
My opinion is that, I don't know what number, let's say 75% of curriculum, probably from high school to college, is useless.
I hear that argument. I understand it, but I don't think it's as useless as everyone thinks, because you never know what the hell you're going to need in this world. I never thought I'd be teaching world history. I never thought I'd be teaching psychology. I never thought I'd be teaching anything related to anatomy and physiology. I never thought I'd be teaching sports marketing. So all those things that I used to take that I thought were, I don't need this, turns out I really freaking needed it for just the way things shook out in my life.
That's for you.
Well, but I think that's for a lot of people. And I think being generally knowledgeable is good, because I was a trivia host and I knew a bunch of random facts that, I used to call useless knowledge. And then I was getting paid to know that stuff. So all of a sudden it's not so useless anymore.
And my wife and I watch Jeopardy. It's embarrassing how little we know. And then it's like impressive how much we know all at the same time. I just think if I'm starting a college or a high school and I did curriculum, stuff like sex ed, they teach it, but I think there's a different way that they should, and high schoolers should be doing it, because heck, everyone's doing things way earlier than they used to do. Finance and who knows, business. It just feels like there should be better. And for college, it's like, for me, hey, I'm not book smart. I'm a street smart kind of guy, and the lessons that I learned were just living life. And I'm still learning. I'm 40. I'll be 47 next month, and I'm still learning this year about life. So I think that's part of the benefits of going to college. I just think there's more stuff. I took architectural history and geology, rocks for jocks, and all this stuff, all kinds of math that I'm never going to need to know. I don't know. That's just, I think that the future should have some better curriculum.
I think education in general needs to change, because I think you're right. I think there is a disconnect. But at the same time, I think now all these kids, they hear enough adults talk like that, and then they just don't care. And really, that's, I think, the most alarming part of that is in Florida, and not just in Florida, nationwide, the literacy rate, the rate at which kids can read, is dropping year after year. I think it was like a 15 or 17% drop in Florida, which was on par with the rest of the country. And that sucks, because, now that I do teach world history, I go through a lot of the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, and you see how bad the world was when no one could read, right? Nobody could read. Everyone was an idiot for 1,000 years, and that's why the world stayed in the Dark Ages. As soon as that printing press got invented and people could start reading, in that 500 years, in the 600, it's less than 600 years that has happened, the amount of advancements that we have seen in every single area of human existence is unbelievable. So reading is so important, and kids just don't even care anymore. And that's, when I hear those arguments when people are like, oh, we should teach more finance and all that. Yes, but I've got news for you. These kids are going to sleep through those classes too, the way they sleep through these classes. We have a motivation problem, and I don't know how to fix that. And I don't know if that's just education. I think that's somewhere else, but it's a weird question to answer.
You're teaching world history, and we're in the U.S. I think U.S. history should be taught more than world history. And it's more like, there's a point, probably like, I don't know, we talk about World War I, and maybe when segregation ended. Like, that is when the most important part of the history we should start to now, because it just feels like what happened in the 1800s and the 1700s. I think even today, as we look at it, it's like, does that really matter? The world was such a different place. It was such a different place 20 years ago. And to talk about what was, 100 years ago or 200 years, where, by the way, no one was around to know. It's like play a game of telephone, right?
Right. It's, we teach, so in high school, the requirements for them, they have to take world history, which, again, I could see somebody making the argument that you don't need it. And then American history in middle school, they get the early part of American history. That's where they get like pre-American Revolution and through the Revolution and into the 1800s. But U.S. history here in Florida picks up right before the Civil War. So they learn from the Civil War forward, which you're right. There's a lot there. But like I said, again, world history is dead dudes and dates. But the way I look at it is, I think if you pay too much attention to what politics and what the news is telling you, the world is an awful place and it's never been worse. And I think when you learn world history, you start to realize that, oh, wait a minute, we actually live in the best time ever, because you can compare it to any period in life in any other part of the world, and holy smokes, we are way better off. That doesn't mean we don't have work to do, but I think it gives these kids some good perspective, because that's the messaging and the imagery that they're surrounded by. When they see, like, all these kids that don't want to read, don't want to do school, and then you teach them about the Dark Ages when everyone was controlled, which at the time was by the Catholic Church, and everybody was controlled by their rulers and leaders locally because none of them could read. This is what happens when you don't read and you can't, because you become ignorant and you become controllable. And that's not a good thing. So I think that, if teachers are teaching it right, there's good lessons for these kids to learn. And then, maybe they'll be good at Jeopardy too someday. That never hurts either. They can make some money.
I think part of the the good thing about being a teacher is your ability to spin and sort of teach it your way. That's a good thing. On the other hand, I think history, and probably particularly history experience from a student's perspective, is different in Daytona, Florida, as it is in, Bismarck, or it is in New Jersey, where I grew up, or California, Oklahoma. You say that it shouldn't be that different, right?
It shouldn't be. I mean, I have my own style of teaching, but my information should be the same as everyone else. And I
But
think
it feels like it's not. Is that the problem that we're hearing around the country, or no?
I don't know. I mean, we all have the standards that we base things off of, so the knowledge should be the same. But what people get from it might be very dependent on styles. But that's like anything. Some people are big haters on the Savannah Bananas because they're bastardizing baseball and they're taking away from the purity of it. And it's like, look, man, like the baseball is the core, but this is fun. It's just some things resonate with people different than others. And I think that's where the styles of teachers come into play. But, so long as everyone is hitting the information properly, which my assumption is that we all are, at least everyone that I know is, even people whose styles are way different than mine, the information is the same. So it's just the flavor is a little different.
What is something that you don't know much about that you would love to teach? If you could just go and tomorrow you're teaching something new.
I hope I never have to do that again. That was the first 7 years of my teaching in college. I had a new class every month on something I never studied before, and I had to become an expert at it fast. So I hope I never have to do anything like that
is there
again.
Like a subject that you think is cool that would be cool to teach?
I don't know. Well, it probably more in line with what I'm doing as I write my book. I'm looking to educate people who are like me, people who like being in the front of a room and want to find a way to use that, because one of the things I talk about early in this book that I'm writing about how to become a professional host is there are thousands of hosts for events every week. How many events are there in a given week in the United States alone? And I'm not talking giant events. I'm talking events where you got some guy or some girl at the front of the room with a microphone in their hand, and they have to lead an audience through whatever they do. There is zero training and education that is formal for that. There are no books. There is no degree. There is no coursework on it. You get little bits of things that are specialized, maybe for DJs and maybe for a few other things, but nothing that encapsulates what I do. And I know I'm not the only guy doing it, because I know plenty of others that are. So for me, I would love to be able to teach others, because I'm not saying I'm the best at any of this, because I don't think that I am, but I think I've done enough where I have some, and I've learned enough from others who are even better than I am, that I can package this and I can put this out there and make it so that when people go to an event, that the host up there has enough knowledge and training to be good and make sure that the people that are sitting there have fun, because there's nothing worse than going to something and having it suck because somebody at the front doesn't know what they're doing, or they tell bad jokes, or they're, very tasteless, or say something completely out of pocket. I think that's something that I can teach. And so I'm crafting and creating that literally as we speak.
Yeah. So there's, as you mentioned, and I figured this, I knew this was the case, but as I started Ticket Time Machine, this really hit me in the face. It was like events that you never even heard of that have 10, 20,000 people at it. It's nuts.
There's so many little worlds that you don't even know about.
Who did you learn from? Can you want to drop a name or two?
I mean, Jesse Cole is the one I quickly identified as being genuinely better than me that I looked to. Also, I mean, I started as a ring announcer, so I looked especially up to certain ring announcers, particularly from the WWE. I was a big fan of Tony Chimmel, which that's not a name any wrestling fans really mention as far as announcers go. They usually mention either Howard Finkel or who else would they do? I don't know. I like the Fink. He's iconic. He wasn't my favorite. I like Tony Chimmel. I liked Justin Roberts, who's in AEW now, but I don't like the way he does it in AEW. I liked how he did it when he was in the WWE. So I study and watch these guys, and
we're big supporters of the Boca Raton Championship Wrestling here in Boca, and we've done a bunch of events with them.
Have you? I'm working with them in Jacksonville in a couple months. Yeah,
they're great. Matt and Neil, great to
They're
they're
sponsoring the barber shop
yeah.
set piece that's going to be out for
Brutus.
photos with Brutus the Barber Beefcake
He's
at
the
River City Wrestling Con in June, which I'll be hosting for the fourth time.
You know, Seinfeld has a funny bit about when he talks about the thing people are most afraid of, right? And it wasn't dying; it was talking in front of people. So it's like when you're at the funeral, they'd rather be in the coffin than on stage talking, right? Have you heard that one before?
Yes, and actually, those I've included some statistics about that. Public speaking is a tremendous fear for people. So for those of us that actually enjoy it and like it, it's like a damn superpower. It's really good because you do need those people, especially if how many events do you go to a year?
A lot.
Every one of them probably has somebody. Even if you go to a conference, there's nothing worse than going to something and having somebody that comes out and, okay, everyone, well, good afternoon or good morning, and thank you for being here. And, we just give a big round of applause for our employees. Aren't they great? And, well, it's like, come on, like we can do better. So, the people that can go up and get that energy and give energy that is reciprocated and just change the room, change the atmosphere and the temperature in the room of people, those are good people to have. And they need training.
The problem I have with this, I'd like to hear your opinion on, is like when I used to go to sales meetings, I worked for LexisNexis Risk Solutions, and they'd bring a host on, and it's almost like scripted. Like, here's the people at LexisNexis Risk Solutions. It's almost like when you're at a funeral and you bring on someone to talk about the people who don't really know who they are. It kind of takes away from it a little bit for me.
It depends what you have a host do. If you're just going to have them go and read stuff, I mean, is there value to that? Sure. If somebody else can't read it well, then yes. But I think if you're really looking to bring in a host for a good reason, it should be someone that bridges the gap between the audience and the people that, kind of run the show behind the scenes. And that's essentially what it is. I always look at myself as that go-between in like wrestling shows and anything. I am the representative of the people, but also I'm part of back of the house too. So my job is to kind of bridge those two things to keep the show rolling. It's like a guiding hand.
Yeah, because it should flow. It shouldn't be like, hey, insert any company name and that's what we're talking about. I think it should flow. It sounds like your first event was trivia. Was that the first sort of host?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if something I would lump in, I mean, I was a spinning instructor years ago, and I would really compare that. And it's a very specific medium to be teaching a group fitness class, but you're essentially a host. You're leading people through things. You're giving them information. You're getting energy out of people. So
but not a lot of interaction in a spin as there is in trivia. You're really getting to interact with the crowd and kind of feed off of them. Spin, yeah, they feed off of you as they're working.
I used to do little trivia games back when I was a spinning instructor sometimes. Like once in a while, and just kind of add little added things. And if somebody got it wrong, they'd have to, ride harder than everybody else for 30 seconds, or you give them a prize of points at the end. People love games. And so I recognized that back then. But my first real foray into hosting, as it is known as hosting, was definitely with doing trivia nights week after week for a few years.
Remember doing trivia when nobody could cheat on their phones?
Those were wild times. Those were wild times. When I was in college, it was like that.
Suddenly the scores are getting better.
Yeah, no kidding. You know what, though? Some people don't even know how to cheat. Well, it's Florida. We have a lot of older people that they don't even know how to use their cell phones. So, I say that as a joke, but I'm serious. Like, because we would do 2 hints online on Facebook, and so many people would come up like, where do I, can you show me where to find it? Yeah, I got it. So I ain't worried about them cheating because good Lord, good luck to them. They got to know their stuff when they get there.
Yeah. So your professor, you're doing the Bananas Tour, which is starting Friday in West Palm. 32 cities,
31 cities, or 33 cities, 21 states.
21 states. And it's all Friday to Sunday, correct?
No, it is not all Friday to Sunday. There's a bunch of Thursdays. And then I know when we get to California, it's pretty much like a 2-week run through California. So there's games on lots of different days than we would normally run. But it is primarily weekends.
Are you there the whole time?
Don't know right now. I know the early discussion was I would not be at all of them. And then they gave me a number. I was like, really? That's the only amount? And then already I'm there for everything in February and March. And I was told the other day, April's looking pretty good. So cards subject to change, much like in professional wrestling. I'm hoping to be there for everything or as much as humanly possible. But right now, definitely everything this month and next month.
How do you navigate with being a professor, the bananas and the tortugas? Because that's a thing that you do.
Honestly, it remains to be seen this year.
And high school, right? Don't you?
I'm at high school, so I'm no longer actually a professor. I'm a teacher here now, so that simplifies it a little bit. But my goal is to be a full-time entertainer and a host. So that's not something that many people do that are not like Pat Sajak and on a television show where they host all the time. So if I'm looking to be that person, I need to make that happen. And I've risen through the ranks tremendously in just 5 years. What I have done in 5 years is something that usually takes considerably longer for, I think, a lot of people.
What do you attribute it to? I mean, obviously you're good at what you do. There's so much talent out there that just never gets recognized. And that's a sports metaphor too. I mean, there's so much talent. I played basketball with people. You would have thought they would have played, top college, and you see baseball and the football. What do you attribute it to? Obviously persistence, how you got the bananas, the talent.
I think persistence is really one of the biggest things. I mean, I think there's a combination. I
Creativity.
think I do have, there's a lot of creativity. And I think that's something I possess. I think it's something I am just naturally good at. I think there are people who just charismatically or just their energy suits them to certain jobs. And I think that's part of it. But I think there's a few of those people. I think it's the persistence and just the relentless nature of it. I don't sleep very much. I mean, even today. So like right now, I got done teaching. I jumped on here with you. As soon as we're done, I'm putting on the first of 2 tuxedos I'm wearing tonight. I have 2 basketball games back to back 40 miles away. Then I'm coming back to teach all day tomorrow and then run detention. And then I'm working a half day Friday to go to West Palm to work 2 games to be back. Most people will not do that. They will not take advantage of those opportunities. The opportunities are out there. People are always looking to hire people. I see something and I seize it and I run with it. And not to mention, and we haven't even talked about this, I am a husband and a father of 4 children. So I have to wear a lot of hats at all times and maximize the time I have at every single place that I go. And I am not content with being average in anything I do. I don't want to be, I'm exhausted as a teacher. These kids are going to get the absolute best from me every day. I get home, I'm exhausted as a husband and a dad, but I don't get that much time with my family. So I want to make it count. I want us to do fun things. I want us to enjoy our company. When I get to be out there with the bananas, it's full tilt boogie because that's the energy everybody is bringing. So it's 110%, 110% of the time. And that's how I've done everything. I chase leads. I go after things. I get more no's than yeses, but I am sending emails. I'm sending contacts. I'm doing 2 or 3 podcasts a month. I am relentless in my pursuit of what I want to do. And I have been that way since I started this. And I've kind of been like that since a kid. Whenever I got into something, I was into it, right? When I got into Power Rangers, when I was like 7, I had every freaking Power Ranger toy and action figure. And I'm like a dog with a bone, man. I'm not going to let it go. And I think that's the attitude that you have to have if you want something, especially if it's really difficult to attain. Doing anything less just will not get you there.
I'm big on LinkedIn. I know you're on LinkedIn. I'm connected with Sam McKenna. I don't know if you know who she is. Big into sales and emails and outreach. And she didn't invent it, but one of her big things is show me you know me. And I can tell you that, that's what I did to get to be a part of the bananas. I was following Jesse very closely. I had him on my show, and you kind of use what he says and who he is to show that you know them and say, hey, this is why we should be together. And I think persistence is great. But the same thing you said, if you would have just been persistent and sent them a video, hey, this is the young professor. No, you got to stand out and you got to show that you know what they want and who they are and why you should be a part of it. I think that's very important to getting what you want and getting to be a part of, because I think people can tell that if you're doing something just to be a part of it, or if you're doing something because that's really who you are and you want to be a part of it.
I 100% agree. And I think maybe it's not a point that I kind of made with it, but I think that's also part of it. Like, so when it was for the Bananas, I read Jesse's book, and then I found out he did a podcast. He's got well over 200 episodes. I've listened to probably over 150 of them. So I've immersed myself in that culture. And so that I could know as much as I could about it. I still listen to them. When I was driving up the other night to go and do that shoot for the Bananas, I could have just sat and listened to things, but there are new lines for my new introduction that I'm doing. I literally sat and practiced it in the car, screaming. People were driving by me, thought I was a maniac. I'm literally like yelling and doing big announcing stuff while I'm driving by myself up I-95. And I did it enough. And I was talking to Jesse, and he was like, well, I was like, yeah, I'm working on the new intro. He goes, well, I was like, I have it in the car. He's like, well, just do it for me. Oh, well, here I am. I just happened to be ready, which I didn't think I'd need to be ready, but I was. It's that intentional, constant, just immersive, genuine sincerity for what you want. I don't approach anybody with just a blanket thing. I look into them, I find out more about them, and I make sure I use that information as I talk to them and hope to make that connection.
That sounds like anger management. Remember when he was in the car? Wasn't that in Jacksonville? Was that in Florida?
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah, there was something where he made him do it in the car, and everyone is
Goose Fraba.
Yeah, Goose Fraba. So the last thing I want to say about the Bananas, it's incredible that people might not know. They won their league 2 years in a row. They're good baseball players. Now, they're not, the top of minor league, but, to find out that you can give up what you might be really good at to do something that is different and taking a chance. Now, we say taking a chance. Jesse crunched the numbers. He realized if we do a tour, we're going to be successful in a way that we don't have to be a part of this league. But I think it's an important lesson. I don't want to use the word pivot. I just want to use the word being flexible or maybe diverse. I don't know what the word is, but just, being able to, and taking risks. And that's what we have to do. But it's the same thing you do. You take a risk. You could bomb. It's like a comedian. You could bomb an event, and that doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do. It's just maybe it was the bad timing, it wasn't the right audience, and who knows, it could be. But that same thing could really hit it out of the park, as you said, somewhere else.
It's about testing things and being ready. I did a speech a few months ago for this like kind of TED Talk style thing that they have in Daytona, and it was called the 5-year plan. And I went on to this whole an entire spiel on how I hate that question. If you've ever been in an interview and people are like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's the most bogus nonsense question.
Like, not here.
Well, yeah, because even now, if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, on average, most people spend just over 4 years at any job. So in 5 years, statistically speaking, probably not here. But that's not the answer they give, right? And so I kind of go into this thing where I map out what my life has looked like from 5 years to 5 years. And the truth is, I never, ever would have been able to predict any 5-year span at all. And I think that's what the Bananas realized too. They started out, they wanted to make baseball fun. That's been the mission, and that's still the mission. But what they thought made baseball fun 5 years ago looks different than what they think making baseball fun looks like now. So it's about this constant drive forward, but also keeping your head on a swivel and paying attention to opportunities and things that come up along the way, and be ready to respond to them as they present themselves. That's been my journey. And that's definitely what Jesse and the entire team have been doing all along since they started as well.
Give me a bucket list of events that you would like to go to and perform at. Or one, maybe the biggest one.
It's the biggest one. Right now, I guess I haven't thought that far ahead. I would love to do more major league sports. I got a chance to do NASCAR this past year. I was asked by them. They came to me, and I got to do all the driver introductions of the guys in the Cup Series for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 in Daytona. That was
Daytona 500 is coming up, isn't it?
I know it's this Sunday, and I'm not going to be there for that. But I did the 400 back in August, which was, Michael Jordan, they showed on the TV watching because he's part of the owner of 2311 Racing. So you're performing in front of some of the most amazing people in the world. That was very surreal.
Michael Jordan just donated $10 million to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is
for
the
his
largest
60th birthday. I just saw that.
That's, you know how, I mean, to think about the experiences that are going to come from that.
I mean,
maybe the Bananas should get involved with the Make-A-Wish. I don't know if they have or not.
I don't know if we have yet. I don't know if we're on the radar. I guarantee you we probably will be before all is said and done, because, you know, like, this is, it's funny to hear you talk about bucket lists. I hear people tell me all the time that one of their things on their bucket list is to come to a Bananas game. And so, you know, that's a big responsibility that we as performers have, to make sure that this lives up to that, because people hold it in that high of a regard. So I would love to do some more major league sports. I would love to work at Major League Baseball stadiums, which I will get that opportunity with the Bananas, because I know that is our vision. And Jesse wants to do that sooner than later. My dream venue personally is Madison Square Garden. As a WWE guy growing up and living in the shadow of New York City, that's the Mecca, right? That's the place. That's where you want to be. But beyond that, I mean, there's tons I'd like to do. I was talking today about Zeppelins in World War I, and I just was thinking, I was like, you know what? I would love to ride in the Goodyear blimp someday. I don't know how you do that, but somebody's got to be up there. And I've gotten to do weird things I would never dream of. I was in one of the pace cars at the Coke Zero Sugar 400. Like, who gets to do that?
It's awesome.
Very few people. So it's possible. Things are possible. So
if you have enough money, if you know the right people, anything is possible. That's what I've learned.
Well, I don't have enough money, but I think I'm meeting enough of the right people.
Right. You're meeting the right people somewhere. I was asking this at the Super Bowl, and I got some interesting answers, and then some people who just some really lame answers, I guess. We're a collectibles. You know, this is what we do. It's why we do with the Bananas, and this is actually a preview of, I don't know if anyone's seen this yet, but the VIBs are going to get this starting Friday. So we're a collectible guy. I have some stuff from the Super Bowl. It's like no one would care. This is from the 16th hole at the Waste Management Open, and just little things that, you know, people collect. You know, it's here a VIP so I collect everything. I got a lot of collectibles. That's what I do. What's the coolest collectible that you have? And then also the question here is house on fire, family's out, pets are out, all your work stuff is out. You don't have to worry about any of that, but you can go back in and you can grab something. What are you taking?
Oh, dude, this is not a fair question at all. So I've been a collector of many things in my life, and have collected and sold and all that. Gosh, well, if I have to go and save anything, I'm probably trying to save my wardrobe at this point, because it's stuff that I have to have and is not easily replaceable. But these are like, people collect these. Like, I have about 200 of these, and they sell and resell. And so, like, this is like, some of them you can't get anymore. So that, man, maybe. But I'll tell you what I do collect, and I've shifted in my collecting habits in the last few years, because I've been so fortunate to work with so many really kind of cool athletes in different sports. Every single person that I work directly with, so I either do commentary for, or I announce them, or I'm coached directly by them, anyone that I work for that has an action figure, I buy that action figure. And I've got like 50 different professional wrestling action figures that are all guys that I grew up watching or watched on TV at some point, that I have had the privilege of working with. I have a ton of the NASCAR collectibles of all the guys that I got to announce live on stage. I got to announce like Jonathan Papelbon and Johnny Bench last year. So I have figures of those guys. So my collection has turned into something more.
I'm going to show you
intensely
what we do
personal.
on the Wolff Den, because it's live.
Let's see what you got, man.
I got a lot of collectibles. But this is my favorite wrestler,
Billy Gunn. There you go. I've worked with his sons before, and I've worked with him. Yeah. I didn't get to announce for him. I got the one day I was going to work with him directly, I got the flu, and I had to call it. One of the very few times I've ever had to call out of an event.
Well, I think the Bananas should play the Yomiuri Giants somewhere. I was lucky enough to see baseball in Japan. They would love banana ball. Where's a place that you would love to see? I think the Sandlot. I know it's the usual.
I mean, everybody talks about the Bananas doing something at the Field of Dreams spot. That would be very cool. But I know there's a lot of international interest. I know Australia in particular is really wanting to be a part of it. I believe there's an Australian team that we are playing in Banana Ball in our Challenger Series this year. So, but yeah, you see like in South Korea and Japan and a lot of the wildness and maybe some of those crazy games in Mexico. I feel like those might be some wild experiences for Banana Balls. Would be cool.
Yeah, we talked about your voice. It's a great voice, but you don't want to be like a buffer where you just announce and that's it. You want to host. You want to be about the event and be really involved with the event. I mean, they just do their thing. They leave. They make millions of dollars.
I'd like that too.
Good on them. I know we would like that too.
Yeah, it's funny.
They couldn't afford these guys for a whole event.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they couldn't. I started like that, but I don't try to sound like them. And I think even initially when I first came in, Jesse kind of wanted me to sound more like them. I think I had to grow on him a little bit. And because at first it was like, no, I kind of want it more like, I'm like, but that's a cheap knockoff. It's hokey. It's not original. Like you have those guys, right? And those guys aren't going to be around forever. As good as they are, they're not. We need the next thing. And if we're building the next generation of stuff, let me be your next guy. And so there are certain things I do that are clearly inspired by the buffers. But I so would rather prefer to be more involved in all of the event and interacting with fans and getting to actually show personality instead of just being completely stoic all the time. And, with the Bananas, I have that opportunity, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, it's incredible. Where do you think you would be if you never made that introduction? What stage? What would you maybe be doing?
I probably would still be working events and just smaller. I mean, I'd still be with the Tortugas. I'd still be there and trying to maybe find my way into other directions. A guy that I know who's my age, who's been ring announcing and doing commentary for a lot longer than I have, Blake Chadwick, he just got signed by the WWE. So, he decided to go that route. And I used to think that's what I wanted to do. And I'm not saying I would say no to that, but when you're in the WWE, you're kind of boxed in. You're boxed into just that. You're the ring announcer, and a lot of times they don't even let these guys in the ring to do it anymore. And you get in and you get out. You don't really have a personality, and very few of them kind of last really long periods of time. A few do, but not all of them. And I used to think that was it, and now I don't know, because I think the sports world, the entertainment world is morphing. It's changing, and I feel like I'm part of that now. And I think whatever that I am going to do that will get me to doing this full time is either in Banana Ball or it's something that doesn't quite exist yet. I think it's going to be created as I go and as things continue to change in just sports and entertainment.
Yeah, I think that Major League Sports, they need people like you to host, because there's a lot of sideline reporters and hosting that I just think they're okay. Do you know Cameron Hughes?
I do know Cameron Hughes. Cameron is a guy I talk to quite a bit, and we do different things, but his story and his journey is probably as similar to mine as anyone I've ever talked to. And so I reached out to him, and we call each other sometimes, and he's somebody I bounce things off of. Yeah,
we had Cameron on the Wolff Den. We're big fans of him and this type of just make everything's about enhancing the fan experience. That's what the Bananas are about, but that's minor league baseball is huge on that. So the Tortugas do a lot of good stuff with that, and just
Major League Baseball should do that. Every sport should do that.
They don't care. They just don't. The major leagues, they don't care enough. There's money is more important in a way. Although I just saw, this is another thing I saw. You see what Robert Kraft did with the Patriots? They're going to pay fans to park and stay longer and have some stuff so the traffic gets lighter.
Huh. No, I didn't see that. That is interesting.
That's interesting. And I think trying to enhance the fan experience, like everything I do with Ticket Time Machine, it's trying to enhance the fan experience. And
I think the Mets are trying to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything?
Sports are entertainment. Sports are
entertainment. Yeah, of course they are. You're paying money to be entertained. It's just sports is the entertainment. But I think you can eliminate as much downtime as possible and give people a thrill, especially now. I don't know about you, but every single one of my bills has gone up and my pay hasn't. So I feel like every single person out there that is putting their money on the table to go to something, that's an important choice, and a choice they could easily not make in the future if something doesn't deliver. So I think any sports or entertainment events that are not taking the time and making it a point to create that experience for people that guarantees that they're going to keep coming back, they might not be missing out now, but long term they will be. People's attention, is very precious, and I think that's the true commodity these days that is most in demand. And so the teams that are and the sports that are going to do a better job of capturing attention, they're going to be the ones that ultimately being the most successful in the years to come.
Because you can't win all the time. Half the league is going to be losing and out of contention very early in some ways. Some leagues.
Well, and only certain teams I feel like can withstand, that. I went to a Red Sox game for the first time a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago now, and that place is packed every night. And Wrigley Field is the same way. Like Chicago fans for them and Boston fans for the Red Sox. The history, the ambiance, they're going for that, regardless of whether the team wins or loses. They're going to hem and haw and complain about, if they're losing, but they're going to go. People are going to go all the time. Those will always be sold out.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh, what's Pittsburgh doing to get fans in? What's Miami doing there?
Pittsburgh sent a home run during the pandemic to the fan who owned that seat. Did you hear about that? They've done some good stuff.
That's good. Well, they need to do that.
Yeah.
There was that picture last year that Jesse posted on Facebook. I think there were 800 fans in PNC Park.
Yeah.
800. Like we have more than that every single night in Banana Ball. Even for low college wood bat, CPL League baseball, there are more fans than at a Pittsburgh Pirates game. And that's a storied franchise, man. There's a lot of history there. That's a shame that's what's going on. Oakland, what's happening. It's terrible. So these guys, I think, especially those kinds of teams, they're missing out by not focusing more on that overall experience. Because I think that's how you build fans, and you want fans more than you want people to just care about wins and losses, because it's entertainment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just to show you how much I am about the physical, I've never done auto pay, direct deposit for my work. Do you have a Bananas check?
I have some real checks. I think now this season we're going to have direct deposit, but I have all of my checks with
that's awesome
with the Dan Simon logo on it. Yeah. I mean, the first one I got emotional because I knew they were a big deal even before I think everyone knew. And so getting a check with Dan Simon's little, angry banana that's on your hat there on it is pretty cool to have.
It's awesome. That's an awesome feeling. We're going to let you out of the Wolff Den with the same question everyone gets. You get to spend a day, 24 hours with anybody you want in the world. They have to be alive. You can't be related to them. Obviously not someone you know. Who would you pick and what would you guys do?
Oh, gosh. Who would I pick and what would we do? Who do I want to meet? I would love, since I was a little kid, man, I have been such a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. Since I was a little kid, it would be fantastic to spend an entire day with him, sit under his learning tree, and just take in all of the knowledge and wisdom that he has accumulated across multiple continents and millions of dollars and tons of experiences.
That's pretty good, actually. And the first time anyone's mentioned Arnold, favorite Arnold movie?
My favorite Arnold movie or the best Arnold movie? Because they're different.
Favorite. It's got to be Kindergarten Cop, right?
No. Commando is the baddest ass movie ever created in the history of man. When you starts out with Arnold walking through a forest carrying a tree on his arm, you're in for a good time.
Is he better than Rambo?
I think so. Okay. I think easily. I think he's always been better than Rambo. Stallone is a close second, but
would you vote for Arnold? Like, he can't run, obviously, the laws of the land. Do you think he would make a good president?
Dude, I would have. I think if you're going to have any celebrity there, I think Arnold is pretty even keel. He's conservative where he needs to be, and he's liberal where he needs to be. I think he more closely meets the needs of what our country is. I think he's a little more middle of the road, like most people. I hate all this polar opposite stuff that you see where you have to pick all left or all right. There's nothing in between. And the fact of the matter is most of us are in between. So we need somebody
like
to make those compromises.
Too. I mean, you live in the U.S. for long enough. You should be more
qualified. Yeah, he's been here forever.
He was born here. I would think. I don't know.
And I mean, we could always say our president could beat up your president. I think that argument wins everywhere.
Yeah, we haven't had that in a while. I don't know who we had. Who knows? Well, great to have you on here. I'm looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the Bananas on Friday in West Palm Beach. That starts the tour this year. Check him out on TikTok and Instagram, MG the Young Professor, and also on Facebook, the Young Professor. You're also on Twitter because I know I tweeted about it.
Dude, I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere I gotta be.
It's great. I look forward to seeing you and reading the book when it comes out. And I think the future is bright. There's a lot of events that need someone like you to host it, and we'll see what happens there. But we'll see you on Friday for the game.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Matt. This has been fun.
Stay tuned. I think we have another episode next week, but stay tuned. Have a good night. Do something fun. Go Bananas.